Welcome to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.
Hi, everyone. We're recording. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report. I'm your host, Lee Brecheen. Today's show, we're going to do something a little different. We're not going to have a guest today. I'm going to be talking about the LSU Spring Game, recap LSU's football team in spring today, the offense only. So we're going to talk about the offense of the LSU football team. Just give you my 2 or 3 cents. You know, everybody has an opinion. But, you know, watching LSU football since, oh, goodness, as a kid since 1974, but truly, generally knowing it since around 1981, 82. Just let's go ahead and talk about the LSU Tigers, the football team, the offense today. We'll do this in part 1, and in part 2, we'll do Wednesday. We'll talk about the defense, and we'll have a guest on Wednesday. But let's go ahead and get started and talk about the team. And I'm just going by what I was seeing with my eyes, you know, scouting all these years. You know, it's just, you know, the spring game is another practice for the team. It's another scrimmage. For the fans, it's the game, right? It's the one time to judge everybody, look at everything, dissect it. And a lot of fans are going to come away with, oh, we're not strong here, we're not strong there. But it's just, to the team, it's truthfully just another scrimmage. And truly, with all teams, especially top 25 programs in D1, they're not going to show their offense. They're not going to blitz much and show their complete defense. But I'm going to tell you what, from watching the team, they look more organized. They look ready. They look like just a different team. It's a team that I think will compete for an SEC championship if these guys stick together. And you heard a lot of the kids say that after the game that were quoted by the Morning Advocate and, you know, a lot of different media outlets that interviewed a lot of the young men on this team, and also Coach Ed Orgeron. And I was saying this when the season ended last year, that they've got to keep these guys together, keep them on the team. They've got to get through the summer. And truly, if they keep this team together, they keep all these guys together, there's not a lot of attrition between now and August. You know, I think this team could be a 10-2 team or better. Because I don't judge, my opinion as a fan/media guy watching LSU since 1974, I don't judge it on one spring game. What you do at a spring game, just my opinion, is just look at pretty much the body language. I thought was phenomenal. That's the key. 2, your quarterback position is going to be really good come fall. It really will be. Tough decisions to make for Ed Orgeron. The offensive line, if you judge it from the spring game, you're not going to get a good probably measure because they didn't have all their running backs. Same thing with the receiving core, same thing with the tight ends, same thing with probably even the quarterbacks because they didn't use all their plays for the offense they're going to run. Again, it was a 4-wide offense because a lot of the running backs were hurt. They didn't have hardly any running backs for the spring game. That's what happens with a lot of these teams that graduate a lot of players or have injuries during spring practice, or their freshmen are not on campus yet for that position. But let's go ahead and start with the offense. Quarterback. Man, this is going to be tough for Ed Orgeron come August. You've got 4 quarterbacks that will be in NFL camps one day. Think of that. 4 quarterbacks who will be in NFL camps. I didn't say first-round picks, but will be in NFL camps with a chance to have an NFL career. LSU's been in this position before. They had, way back, they had Bob Lane. They have David Woodley, Steve Ensminger, Robbie Moffatt. That was a great group. Then they had Josh Booty, Rowan Davey, Craig Nall. Remember that? They had Matt Flynn, Jamarcus Russell. Remember that? You know, they've always had great competition. Mickey Guidry, Tommy Hodson, you know, Pat Lyons, Burt Jones. You know, always 2 or 3 quarterbacks competing to win the job. Good quarterbacks. My take on this is that who has the most upside for this offense? And I truly believe that Max Johnson, who's really still learning and evolving, has the makeup for the offense that you're looking for come fall. That's my opinion. I saw it against the Florida Gators at Florida. His maturity, his focus, his touch, especially balls over the middle, how calm he doesn't make mistakes when under pressure, his ability to run, his ability to take it in and process. And the arm's going to get better and better and better every year. I just think Max Johnson is the guy for this offense. Miles Brennan, he looks like a guy that came off an injury from a year ago. And to his defense, he hasn't been playing ball but, you know what, a month since the injury. So you can't really fully judge where Miles Brennan's fully at. I mean, he didn't look like a senior, you know, but yet he didn't look like a freshman. The only thing is that Miles, even when he was doing great before he got hurt, putting up all those yards, he wasn't very good on third down and in the red zone. And that's what Joe Burrow was good at, and a lot of other quarterbacks that took their teams to national championships or, you know, the playoffs or, you know, a major bowl game. And I don't know if Miles Brennan will ever be that total package to be able to run when needed. And, again, he has struggled in the red zone. He struggled in the red zone during the season before he got hurt, and he struggled on third down. Very, very, very much struggled. And those things are what put pressure on defense. And also those are things you have to overcome. When you get in the red zone, you got to score most of the time. You got to be about 80%, 70%. And then you got to be able to pick up third downs with your feet. And that's what Max Johnson brings to the table. TJ Finley, the kid out of Ponchatoula, has a cannon arm. And look, I saw that in high school. He had a phenomenal arm. And look, he is a lot better. He's super improved on running the ball. He was not a good runner at Ponchatoula. He had no ability to run. He's really, I'm going to give him a lot of credit. He's really worked hard to get his weight down, and he's more mobile than he was in high school. He needs to make better decisions under pressure and be more consistent. For every bomb that he throws that's great, he has an interception just on something very simple, whether it's an out pass or trying to throw the ball over the middle or under pressure. And that's what I notice he still does just from that one spring game that we all watched, the scrimmage. Finley has a pro future. I don't think he's where Max Johnson's at. He doesn't have the experience of Brennan, even though Brennan doesn't have a lot of experience prior to getting hurt. And then there's Nussmeier, who has, to me, the most NFL ability of all 4 quarterbacks. But he's young. He's just a kid. He should be going to prom right now. And so I think these 4 quarterbacks will all be in the NFL one day at some point, whether it's a long career, short career. Even Brennan has a chance to be an NFL quarterback or get an opportunity. But I think the upside is Max Johnson right now. And I think it's Nussmeier and Finley. But Finley, if he chooses to leave, if he's not named the starter, and et cetera, will have a great career somewhere else. And guess what? You can play right away. It's going to be weird, though, if he goes to an opponent of LSU and gets to play right away. Wouldn't it be kind of crazy? Or if Brennan leaves. I mean, there's so many angles this could turn, right? So many different I mean, it's got to be handled really, really. It's going to be hard on Ed Orgeron to handle this. You got 4 quarterbacks that can play. But and I'll get to this when we take a break and come back. We'll talk about the offensive line. But LSU's offensive line, I think, next year will be experienced and have leaders. But it's not a great pass-blocking offensive line going into the fall. And you've got to have the ability to run at quarterback. And that's what I'm looking at Max Johnson as being the guy to consistently run this offense, because LSU does not have dominant offensive tackles. They have good offensive tackles. They have good kids. We'll talk about that when we come back. But I truly believe, again, at quarterback, Max Johnson brings what this offense needs to succeed in this league. If this was the Sun Belt or this was the Big Ten or Pac-12 or Big 12, any of these 4 quarterbacks would be successful, because there's just not very many defenses to defend or pass rush. But this is the SEC. Everybody can rush you. Everybody can get after you. And you got to be able to run the ball as a quarterback. We're going to go take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the LSU offensive line. We'll be right back. Listen, whatever you're driving right now, Tommy Harvey wants it. Bring it in to Harvey Subaru, Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City, or John Harvey Toyota. They're paying big bucks for all trades right now. They'll cut you a check right there. Tell them Lee sent you. Welcome back. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report. I'm your host, Lee Brecheen. We're going to talk about the LSU offensive line in this segment. And it goes hand in hand with quarterback. You know, when Joe Burrow was at LSU and won the Heisman, even his junior year, the year before, LSU didn't have a great offensive line. Now, they did get the offensive line award, the Joe Moore Award, his senior year. And they were well-deserving of that. They really overachieved, I thought. But Joe Burrow, I thought, made them look really good as well because of his ability to run on third down. And they didn't have any dominant offensive linemen. They had some good players. You know, Charles went to the Redskins. Cushenberry went to the Broncos. You know, Lewis went to the Seattle Seahawks. They had some good players. I'm not saying that, but it wasn't a dominant offensive line pass blocking. Run blocking, they were really good with Clyde Edwards, who Clyde made, you know, again, was one of the best running backs in the United States in 2019. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. With Ty and, you know, John and all those guys. But the offensive line going into fall, I don't think you can get a read on it in the spring game. I think because of the offense they ran in the spring game, or all spring, because they didn't have all their running backs. You know, and LSU's got a pretty good defense. We'll talk about the defense in another show, but you've got a heck of a defensive line at LSU now. So it's hard to judge how good the O-line really is. I mean, LSU's got about 8 pro prospects on the D-line, which is, again, it's hard to judge how good your O-line really can be when you lose some battles to maybe one of the best D-lines in the country next year. But let's talk about the offensive line. They return the whole offensive line, which is great for experience, great for maturity, great for leadership. Now it's just a matter of how good are they going to be this year. At center, Liam Shanahan is going to come back for his second year at center. It was his first year to ever play center when he was at Harvard. The transfer from Harvard was really a tackle and a guard. And I've actually talked to some former LSU centers about this that you know, watch LSU. And, you know, this guy's got to get better. And I think he will. And he got better as the season went on. I watched him against Ole Miss, against Florida, late in the season, Liam Shanahan really started to get it. It wasn't that he wasn't good enough. He was just very lost at times with the position. But I think Liam Shanahan's got a chance to be a really, really good center. His senior year this year coming up. I mean, the kid's 6'4", 6'5", about 310, 315. He's very smart, strong, and he's got a grasp of it now. I mean, the guy never played the position before till last year. And he was all conference. Obviously, it was at Harvard, but, it's a kid that benches almost 500 pounds. He's got almost a 4.0 GPA. He's a very good player, and I think the key is the center position. Cushenberry was so good for 3 years for LSU with Joe Burrow for 2. But it's going to be built around the center position. If some reason Shanahan struggles or some reason he gets overpowered by some of these nose guards, which can happen anyway to good centers, it even happened to Cushenberry a few games. You've got some other options. You got Turner from Michigan, actually from Canton, Ohio, from IMG Academy. Charles Turner got a little nicked in the spring game, actually. Charles is a redshirt sophomore. He's been waiting his turn. About 6'4", about 290 now. He was about 240 when he got in the program. You can also put Marlon Martinez at center, who's a redshirt freshman, basically. He played last year, gets his year back. From Fort Lauderdale, St. Thomas Aquinas High School in Florida. Marlon is about 6'4", about 295, 300. Great feet, smart kid. Number 77, also a guard for LSU. You have a lot of options at center. If something, if Shanahan can't get it done for some reason, I think he will. At the guard spots, you've got a lot of players competing. There's nothing set. There's nothing set but Ed Ingram. Ed Ingram's going to be one of your starting guards. He's your most talented offensive lineman on the team. He's got a chance to be, I think, a first-round pick. I really do. The senior from DeSoto, Texas, could have went pro. Probably would have went in the 5th round maybe. Good decision to come back. Ed Ingram's 6'4", about 320. Great feet, powerful. Had really missed almost a year and a half prior to coming back last year. I think he's going to flourish this year. I think Ed Ingram is going to have a phenomenal season as a run blocker. That's really going to be what he's drafted for, as a run blocker, not really a pass blocker. And he can pass block too. The other guard spot's up for grabs. Even though Chasen Hines was the starter in the spring game from Marshall, Texas, I'd like to see Chasen get a little leaner. He's about 335, 6'3". He's had some injuries, but when he's healthy, he's pretty good. He was a D tackle when they signed him out of Marshall, Texas. Powerful, strong kid. I think he just needs to continue to get back into shape. But that spot could be a revolving door. You got Cordell Thomas, who's trying to come back from an injury. I think he's gotten some spots at fullback, actually, in the offense to get him on the field. Cordell, has struggled to come back from that injury he had a year ago. He looks a little better. I know he's not quite fully back. I still think he was a great player for college coming out of high school. Saw him play at Southern Lab many times. He just needs to get back into the shape he needs to be in to be a starter. And I think he's got a chance, maybe, if not this year, but the following year. You also have other guards that could be in the running. Garrett Dillinger could be a key player from Michigan. I think he's, a freshman, but it could be a guy that could come in and play guard at 6'4", 6'5", 307 pounds. You've got some guys like Xavier Hill that could come in and play guard from Mississippi, from Olive Branch. I think he's very talented. I actually think he looked very good with the twos in the spring game. Xavier Hill, he's 6'3", about 310. Really good feet. Really like that kid a lot. You can even put Anthony Bradford at guard. Anthony Bradford could be that second guard at 6'5". He's about 365 now. He's probably going to get down to about 330, I think Ed and them want him at least 340 from 370 is where he was about 390. But Anthony Bradford, who benches about 500 pounds, the only thing that Anthony Bradford's got to conquer is his weight. And I think what hurt him was no spring last year. If there was a spring last year, Anthony Bradford would have been starting last year and would have been in better shape. Anthony Bradford's got a chance to be a heck of a player. He's got a chance to be a first-round pick once everything comes together. And I liked seeing him at times in spring. He's super physical, super strong. He's enormous. And you might see 3 guards all year. You might see Hines, Ingram, and Bradford. It might be, and then you might see a little Cardell. You might see a 4-guard rotation the whole season until somebody starts dominating. At the tackle spots, you return Dare Rosenthal from Faraday High School, 6'7", 330 pounds, who came into his own last year, started showing his ability. I watched him at Faraday. Has a great frame, obviously, 6'7", 330. Can really move. I just think he needs to start dominating, because he's such a gifted kid. He just needs to start pushing people off the line, in pass protection and run blocking. The other tackle, Austin Dackless, I think he's a leader, from Texas. 6'6", 6'7", 340 pounds, 330 pounds, whatever he's going to be in the fall. Not the most talented player, but just a smart kid that's a leader. And leadership means a lot in that huddle. And run blocking, he's phenomenal. Pass blocking, he's probably, above average. Again, pass blocking's not the LSU strength. Even for Dare Rosenthal, he needs to work a little more on it. They need to get better. If Dare Rosenthal can blossom this year, this offensive line could be phenomenal. It could be a phenomenal line if him and Dackless can improve their pass blocking. But you have other tackles. I really like this kid Dermerville from Florida, from Fort Lauderdale, who redshirted basically and still got his year again. But, here's a kid 6'5", about 320, with great feet, long arms. Got a chance to be a phenomenal player for LSU. He's going to be a great tackle one day once the kid grows up a little bit. Another tackle for LSU to keep an eye on. There's going to be some, Cameron Wire's the other guy, from East Ascension High School. He's got a lot of playing time last year. He's 6'6", about 320. I saw him at East Ascension when he only weighed about 260, 255. He's really grown into his frame at LSU. But Cameron Wire, who's really a redshirt junior, is a good player. He's becoming a good player. So they have really 4 tackles. You have 4 guards. You basically have 3 centers. And they have a chance to be really good up front. Again, they have a lot of experience. Returning Ed Ingram and Dackless and Dare Rosenthal and Liam Shanahan was very important to this team to have a chance, not only for depth reasons, but again for the ability to have that leadership and experience up front. Their strength is run blocking. Pass blocking, they need a little work. But I think the offensive line will be okay. I think that because of the experience, and I think they got a great coach. And another kid, Thomas Perry, is a guy to look for as a guard or tackle from Turlings Catholic. He sat out last year with an injury. Thomas Perry is 6'6", about 330. Tough kid. Again, could play guard for LSU, could play tackle, and has the ability to get some minutes this year if they have an injury. He would be that 5th tackle, or could be that 4th tackle if they did have an injury. It could be that 5th guard. So, not extremely deep, but deep enough to get through a season, and has a lot of experience. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about tight ends and wide receivers for the LSU offense. Looking for a used car? Harvey Autos has 3 dealerships, which means 3 times the used vehicles. They've got everything from fuel-efficient compacts to luxury models, even hybrids, and certified pre-owned with a warranty. Check out John Harvey Toyota, Harvey Subaru, or Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City. Welcome back. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report. I'm your host, Lee Brecheen. We're talking about the LSU football team, recapping the offense today in part one. Part two, we'll do defense on Wednesday for the LSU football team, just looking at where they are going into fall after the conclusion of spring. This segment, we're going to talk about tight ends and wide receivers. Let's start with the tight ends. As of today, Eric Gilbert's not on the team from Marietta, Georgia, this talented freshman who caught almost 40 passes, looked the part, man. Definitely lived up to his billing as one of the most talented tight ends in college football. We all know the story. He left, went back to Marietta. Kid had some issues going on, had to get some things taken care of. There's talk he might come back to LSU. He was going to go to Florida. He's been recruited by everybody in the country, even Nick Saban, Tennessee, where his former quarterback is from Marietta High School. I think if he rejoins the LSU team and if he's eligible to play because he missed a lot of school, would be obviously a huge factor for this team. And he would be the best tight end in the SEC and maybe in the country. He was just a baby last year, and he looked phenomenal. It would be exciting to see him come back to LSU and see how he would be as a 19-year-old player. At 18, I was pretty impressed like everybody else. I think Eric Gilbert's got a chance to be a first-round pick tight end. I really do. And like all kids and all people, we all have issues that we have to overcome and go through. It's just part of life. And I think he had some things he had to take care of during COVID, and I think the kid's going to be a great player. And I hope he finishes at LSU in the purple and gold. He's definitely not going to go past his junior year, so he's really only got 2 more years left wherever he finishes. But if the LSU can get Eric Gilbert back, this offense is going to be incredible at tight end. And if they don't get him back, I do like Cole Taylor from Colorado, from Grand Junction, who played a lot last year. The shoe incident, remember, against Florida when they threw his shoe, which helped win the game and set up the field goal for Cade York. Cole Taylor, 6'7", about 250, 245. He's got really good hands, deceptive speed. Not most tight ends aren't 4'5" like Eric Gilbert, but he's one of them 4'7", 9, 4'8" guys that as he gets bigger, he's going to get stronger and faster. Obviously, he's probably going to top out about 260, which is good weight for a guy 6'6", 6'7", might get to 265. But I like Cole Taylor a lot. I also like Nick Stortz, the former LSU baseball player from Brooklyn, New York. Nick is 6'5", 6'6", about 265. Really just got back to playing football after 5 years of playing baseball. But a little tidbit to the listeners. Nick Stortz was a Parade All-American tight end coming out of high school. That's right. He was a Parade All-American tight end. So he's got the background to be a great tight end. And he was rusty, right? You're going to be rusty after missing 5 years and not putting pads on. If you ever played football, don't wear pads for 5 years and come back. It's an adjustment. But Nick Stortz is going to be a heck of a tight end, I think, for LSU. Even though he only had 1 catch in the spring game, they weren't throwing to the tight ends very much. But Nick and Cole Taylor, and then Aaron Moffatt, who missed last year, is going to be a good blocker for the team. He's about 260, 6'2". Tommy Moffatt's son, Aaron Moffatt, that played at Catholic High Baton Rouge, missed last year with an injury. And you also have a flex tight end in Jack Besh, who's going to be phenomenal, I think, for LSU. He's going to be like Thaddeus Moss. And then you have another flex tight end in Devontae Lee, who was a linebacker for LSU from Amite High School. So the position, and then Jack Mashburn, who's come a long way as a walk-on from St. Paul's High School in Covington. Jack Mashburn's a guy to not forget about. Jack is 6'3", about 225, 230, runs about a 4'6". Started in the spring game, did a great job. I like Jack Mashburn a lot. So the group is going to be strong if Eric Gilbert comes back and he gets to play, if he gets his eligibility where he can play. This is going to be the best unit in the SEC. When you look at Cole Taylor, who's got an NFL future, Eric Gilbert, and then you look at Jack Besh as a flex tight end, and like I said, Devontae Lee. And then you got a freshman from Olive Branch, Mississippi, Jalen Sheed, who's about 6'4", about 245, that can run a 4.6. A big raw kid that I think he still might move the defense if they can move him if Gilbert comes back. Sheed was a D lineman, too, at Olive Branch and would make a great DN. So I don't know if Eric Gilbert does return, like I said, they could move Sheed to DN, which I know that Ed would love to do if he could do that, because Sheed could be one of them 270-pound, 6'4" DNs for Ed at some point, running 4.7, 4.65. We're going to go take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about wide receivers. We did talk about the tight ends, but let's talk about the wide receivers when we come back. So, hey, guys, just wanted to take a minute to tell you about Harvey Autos. If you need a new or used car, there's 3 great dealerships right here worth checking out. John Harvey Toyota, Harvey Subaru, and Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City. Low prices, honest people. Tell them Lee sent you. Welcome back. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report. I'm Lee Brecheen, your host. Today we're talking about the LSU football team. We're recapping the offense. Talking about the offense. We're going to talk about the defense on Wednesday, part 2 Wednesday, part 1 today. We're going to talk about the wide receivers. Obviously, the guy is Kayshon Boutte from Westgate. What a game he had against Ole Miss. What a season this kid had as a true freshman. And I watched him in high school at Westgate High School in New Iberia. And in high school, he was an athlete. He played running back. He to return punts, kicks, played receiver, played a little quarterback. He did everything. But he settled in as a receiver. He blossomed, and my goodness, he's a phenomenal player. He's so good in space. He's so good with his hands now. His hands are really starting to become elite. And in traffic, he goes up and gets the ball kind of like a Jarvis Landry, but he's a little faster, obviously. I mean, he's a guy that can catch 9 to 10 balls a game. I mean, he's a phenomenal player. You're going to build your offense around Boutte in 2021 when you throw the ball. You got to get him the ball in space, and he's going to make plays, and he can run a 4.39 40. Boutte, barring an injury, is going to be a first-round pick, and we'll never see his senior season. Now, let's look at what else they have. Let's develop the other receivers, right? I think it's a strong group. It's a young group with a lot of ability. I think Ray Jenkins from Gina, this will be his 4th year in the program as a redshirt junior, is 6'4", 200 pounds. Reminds me a lot of DJ Chark, who's also from North Louisiana with the Jacksonville Jaguars now. I think Ray is that long guy that stretches the defense. He really came on last year and had a great game against Florida. Remember that pass in the corner of the end zone he caught from Max Johnson? He had a really, really good year. I think that Ray Jenkins could be that number 2 guy because he's a big guy. He's got good hands. He evolved, and he's going to evolve, I think, into a phenomenal monster year. The third player that I like, he's going to be tough to beat out, is Jontre Kirkland. Had a phenomenal spring game. I know it was just a practice scrimmage to the team, and to the fans it was the spring game, and he dropped a lot of balls last year. Let's just go ahead and say it. I mean, Jontre dropped a lot of balls last year, but in the spring game he dropped 1 ball, and I counted it. He was targeted 10, he caught 12 balls, I think. He was targeted 13 times and dropped 1 pass. He looked like the most improved player to me on offense for this team. He was a quarterback at Lutcher High School. He's transitioned into the position remember Russell Gage? How Russell Gage transitioned into a receiver from DB? And he did a pretty good job for LSU. Now he's doing a good job for the Falcons. But when you look at Jontre Kirkland, he's a guy. What college football is all about. Him returning, getting that extra year, that's going to change his life. And he's going to be hard to beat out by all these talented freshmen they have coming in. So when you look at the experience at receiver, Butte, Ray Jenkins, and then Kirkland, those are the three that will start off the year. And then Coy Moore, obviously, from Rummel. Coy's got a lot of ability. He's still evolving. He's evolving with his hands. He's evolving with his route running, but he's got a lot of ability. Coy Moore could be a Butte and will be, I think. He's just evolving, taking a little more time. But he can be a playmaker, and he's got the ability to be a great player. So those are your four receivers, and those are four really good players. I do like this true freshman coming in, Dion Smith from Jackson, Mississippi. He looks the part. 6'3", 205 with 4.45 speed. Man, this guy's going to be a phenomenal player. And I'm excited to see how good he's going to become between now and fall. He was an early enrollee from Mississippi. But Dion Smith has got some talent, man. He could be that fifth guy. And then there's Alex Adams, who's a sophomore from Mississippi, who's got a lot of ability. You've got some other guys at receiver that could show their stuff. Trey Palmer did not play in the spring game. Trey Palmer's got a lot of ability. I think, if anything, he's your punt returner, kick returner. He's so fast. Man, Trey's like a 4.3 40. The Kentwood native, 6 foot 180. He's evolving and getting a little bigger. Don't forget about Trey Palmer. But again, at worst, he's your punt returner and kick returner, I think, this year. So they don't overuse Butte or Stingley and get those guys hurt. Brian Thomas, the incoming freshman from Walker High School, is what the team doesn't have in the spring. Not taking anything away from Ray Jenkins, who's a tall guy. But when you look at, like, vertical, 40-plus inches, when you look at the ability to separate in the air vertically, Brian Thomas is the one guy on the team that gives LSU like a Julio Jones type of player. Brian's 6'4", will play at about 198, 200 pounds, and he is a nightmare. And I think Brian Thomas is going to be phenomenal in this league. I think Malik Neighbors coming in from Southside High School, played at Como, sat out his senior year at Southside High School in Youngsville. Malik Neighbors is super talented, but they might move him to corner. And LSU right now is so deep at both spots, I don't know if they move him or not move him. But Malik Neighbors is a playmaker, 6'1", about 195, big, tough guy, strong with speed. Very similar to like a Chase or like a Butte, that very strong in space, very tough kid. And then, like I mentioned, Jack Besh before. Jack is probably going to be a flex tight end, could be a receiver. You know, a flex tight end is a receiver, but he's going to be also a blocker. Jack Besh is going to do phenomenal things at LSU. I'm telling you, fans, if you haven't seen Jack Besh play, the freshman from St. Thomas More High School, he didn't enroll early. He'll enroll in the fall. He's 6'2", 215, deceptive speed, runs about a 4.55, 4.6, but he looks 4.4, has great hands. Vertically, you're not going to get the ball in the air. It's going to be his. He's very, very much ready for the SEC. And then there's Chris Hilton from Zachary. Chris is very talented, a slot receiver for LSU, 5'11", about 180, 178. Smooth, great hands, big playmaker. Loves to make big plays when the game's on the line. And was a track guy for most of his career at Zachary, but he's a football player that ran track. I like Chris Hilton's future. I don't know if he gets to play as much as maybe a lot of these receivers want to play right away, but he'll definitely be in the mix, and he could definitely get a lot of playing time this year. If there was an injury, he could get on the field and play some. Same with Malik Neighbors. I tell you, though, this wide receiving core is going to be phenomenal in the end. And that's why the quarterback position is going to be great, whoever they choose, whether it's Max Johnson, Brennan, Finley, or Nussmeier, who's going to be phenomenal one day, the young Nussmeier. But this offense has got a chance to be phenomenal. They really do. Now, if you're watching just the spring game and you're trying to judge it, you can't really do that. It's a scrimmage. They don't run the plays that you want to run. And when we come back, we're going to talk about running backs. They didn't really play all their running backs in the spring game, but I was impressed with Ty Davis. I was super impressed with him. We'll come back and talk about running backs for the LSU offense.
Parents, are you looking for advice on getting your high school athlete recruited by the right college? Lee Brecheen is your answer. Lee has been doing it for over 30 years. He knows the ropes, and more importantly, he knows the people. Lee offers turnkey service from evaluation, creating highlight tapes in the correct format, and complete guidelines for effective communication with the schools. No matter the sport, girl or boy, no matter what grade your child is in, let Lee Brecheen help match your child to the right college fit. Go to our website, lafootballmagazine.com, and get connected today.
Welcome back. You listen to the Sports Scouting Report. I'm your host, Lee Brecheen. Today's topic is the LSU offense, recapping the offense. This Wednesday, we'll talk about the defense in part 2 of the LSU team preview. Let's talk about running backs. We've got one position after this to talk about. That's punter. But running backs, you can't get a gauge on the running game yet. You really can't, because the spring game, John Emery did not play. Okay, John Emery sat out just as a precaution, had some injuries. Trey Bradford did not play, the talented young kid from Texas, from Dallas area. By the way, Trey Bradford had a great year last year, stepping in against Florida, catching that touchdown pass, and also had a phenomenal game against Ole Miss. LSU didn't have but one running back left for the game. It was him and the walk-on Williams. And I thought Trey Bradford had a phenomenal game, not playing the whole year basically, except the Florida game. And it gave LSU, if it wasn't for Trey Bradford giving LSU minutes against Ole Miss, they wouldn't have beat Ole Miss. But the running back position is open to me. I think it's wide open on who the main guy will be. Now, you need 3, right? You always need 3. And you always need 4 on your roster. And LSU will have 5 running backs. But John Emery and Ty Davis Price, I call him Ty Davis, but Ty Davis Price and John Emery, they got to step it up. They do. They got 2 freshman running backs coming in who are going to be phenomenally ready, that bring a lot to the table, speed and the ability to come in and start. So I was impressed with Ty and what he's done to reshape his body. I thought Ty Davis Price lost 10 or 15 pounds. They didn't show the height, weight. The roster's not really current on height, weight anyway, but he was too heavy, I thought, in 2020. He lost his burst. He lost his ability to cut. He didn't have the endurance. Again, didn't have spring last year. A lot of guys didn't have spring. They lost a lot of time, all that blah, blah. But Ty Davis Price has got his mojo back. He's got his ability to cut and his burst. And I saw that in the spring game. And I think if he can do that, he'll be the guy. I think he'll be the starter. I really do. I think when Ty Price is 220 pounds in shape and not 235, he's a first-round, second-round pick running back. And if he can come back in the fall at 220, like he looks now, like he ran in the spring, I mean, Ty could be what he should have been maybe the year before. Again, the year's over. He was overweight. He was a little heavy. But maybe he learns from that. Maybe he learns that, hey, not being big and heavy that slows you down. But if Ty's the guy, which I think, again, it's going to take 2 backs to run this offense, as many as 3. I do think he's the guy going in the fall. Now, you have Trey Bradford coming back from Texas, who's got a lot of ability, who's 6 foot. I'm sure when the new roster comes out, he'll weigh over 200 pounds. He's got a lot of speed, runs about a 4.45, 4.40. You got John Emery, who's got to stay healthy. That's John's biggest thing, is he's got to stay healthy and come back in great shape. You've got the walk-on from Texas who did a great job, who didn't really even play in the spring game, Josh Williams from Houston, Texas. I thought it did a great job last year. 5'9", 200 pounds. Runs a 4.5, 4.59, 40. Great walk-on player that got a scholarship. He's actually looked really good for LSU. In the spring game, I mean, you had a running back that nobody knew. I didn't even know who this guy was, but he came in, Nick Demas. Nick is from Indiana. They moved him to running back from linebacker. He's about 5'11", about 210. And I'll tell you what, he looked like a little bit like a Jacob Hester. He really did. He looked like a guy that could develop a niche in this offense. He's a guy that came out of nowhere as a walk-on. Nick Demas played a lot in the spring game. I know they didn't have a lot of their running backs, but Nick Demas is a tough kid he's got a little something to him. It might have been a greatest find in spring practice is moving this kid to running back from linebacker because they didn't have any bodies. And then there are the freshmen that come in the fall. Amani Goodwin from Alabama, a true freshman, built like Kevin Falks, 5'8", 185, 190, runs a 4.4. One of the top running backs to come out of Alabama the last 2 years. Amani Goodwin has got a chance to be a phenomenal player. And then you have the guy that I can't wait to see arrive from Cincinnati, Ohio in the fall, a big-time running back from Cincinnati, Keiner. Corey is 5'9", about 210, built like Clyde Edwards, a little taller. The ability to break tackles with power. It's got speed outside. Very similar to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Very similar to him. And Amani Goodwin reminds me a lot of Kevin Falk. And Kevin Falk signed him. Signed both these guys. So the running back position has upgraded because there's guys pushing the older guys. Last year, there was nobody pushing John Emery and Ty Davis-Price. Trey Bradford was very young. But look, it's a good group, and I think the running back position is going to be better this year. And go ahead and talk about our final position this segment. Let's talk about punter. I think LSU's got two good punters. I really do. I mean, I was really shocked on how good Avery Atkins was punting the ball, our kickoff specialist for LSU. Avery had some phenomenal punts in the spring game. The junior from Auburn, Alabama, who does a great job with kickoffs. I thought this was going to be a Peyton Todd win here at punter right away, and I still think Peyton Todd will be the guy. Freshman from West Monroe, 6'5", 230 pounds, has a cannon foot. The best punter I've seen come out of high school in Louisiana since Donnie Jones at Catholic High. I think Peyton Todd's the most talented punter I've ever seen in high school. But Avery Atkins has got a heck of a leg as a punter. And if he loses the job, he's still the kickoff guy. But you've got two great punters. I know Zach Von Rossenberg did a great job from Zachary and will probably make an NFL team and start in the NFL. But these two guys, nothing's going to be – I mean, if anything, it's better. I think Avery Atkins could end up being better than Rossenberg. And I think Peyton Todd will end up being the best punter to ever punt at LSU. I really believe that. So they got two good punters. If something happened to Peyton, if there was an injury, and then, again, Avery Atkins would be your kickoff guy, even if he doesn't win the punting job. But you got two punters that could be all conference in Peyton Todd and Avery Atkins. The offense, to just wrap it up, I think it'll be better than last year. It's going to be tough again to choose your quarterback. They got to handle this right. Obviously, somebody's going to leave. But I think it'll be Max Johnson in the end. Mellis Brennan obviously is the guy to beat out. He's the incumbent. He's the starter that was started it before his injury and had some great games. But, again, he's got to get more mobile. He's still evolving. He hadn't played a lot. And that's what's really bad for Miles. He hasn't played a lot, hasn't started a lot to be cemented as the guy. And he doesn't run very well. He doesn't have that instincts to run too. And he's got to get better on third down and in the red zone. You got to be good in the red zone and third down to be a starter in this league. Even when he was starting against Missouri, the game he got hurt in, Mississippi State game, he didn't really do well on third down in the red zone. Most of his balls were like bombs, Plays that became big plays, down and outs, post, but none of them, not many plays in the end zone, in the red zone, and not many good third down conversions because he can't run on 3rd and 3s or 3rd and 5s like Joe Burrow was able to do. That's what Max Johnson brings to the table. Nussmeier, again, I think he's going to be a first-round pick one day. He's just a young puppy. You know what I mean? Just a young guy that when he puts it together, oh, my goodness, Nussmeier is going to be phenomenal. And then T.J. Finley's phenomenal in his own way. He's just not very mobile, still a little inconsistent, but he's going to be a pro quarterback. He's going to evolve and be a pro quarterback because he's got a cannon arm. He's still getting better. In college football, it's about being ready now. And it's going to be the best guy ready. And it's going to obviously down, I think it's down to Max Johnson and Brennan. And if Finley, I don't know if he would stick around if he's going to be the fourth guy, and I don't, or the third guy. It would, if Finley stayed, he would be the third guy, and then Nussmeier would redshirt. So if Finley leaves, then Nussmeier would move up as the third quarterback, and if Brennan was to possibly leave, then it would be Max Johnson and Nussmeier. There's so many scenarios that could happen here once the job is announced. When is it announced? I don't know. You kind of want to say don't wait till August because these kids are going to want to know. The parents are going to know, hey, who's the starter going in the fall? Maybe the early fall camp, you'll get it a starter, maybe after a couple of scrimmages. I don't know what Ed Orgeron's going to do, but I do know that's the most important decision for this team is to pick the right quarterback and move with it as your leader to build this team. I hope you enjoyed the show. We'll go with part 2 for defense on Wednesday. I hope everybody enjoyed it. I'd like to do the defense with a guest. I know people don't want to hear me talk solo. But today I just wanted to do it because I want to go in depth on the offense a little bit. And we'll do the defense hopefully with a guest. We'll try and get a former LSU player or former college football player and go over the defense in depth from D-line, linebacker, DB, and also for kicker. We'll go over kicker and all the special teams too. Talk about special teams players. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Thanks for listening to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.